The Awakening of the Chosen. How often has the thought of doubting what we were taught about God made us uneasy? It's not for nothing. We are surrounded with ideas from a very young age that specify precisely how we should feel, think, and even dread the divine. Although these ideas are transmitted from one generation to the next as unchangeable facts, their true function is to maintain our complicity and compliance. Systems that rely on group control and obedience to function well are well suited to the story of an external, remote, and unreachable God. That's why asking questions is so crucial, to comprehend the true meaning of God, not to deny the existence of God. It is something that most people never dare to investigate, that the elite, that tiny group that many adore and many others condemn, understands. God is not a remote entity that bestows benefits on those who pray the most or obey the most laws. God is a dynamic energy that pervades everything and everyone, a universal creative power. They acknowledge this energy inside themselves rather than seeing it as something apart from them. They are able to influence their reality in ways that seem nearly supernatural because of this insight. For them, God is something to be comprehended and used as a creative instrument, not something to be feared or revered on an inviolable pedestal. In reality, they are denying us the chance to learn that this creative power is not unique to any one person when they advise us not to ask questions. It is not a part of any system, religion, or small group. We all possess it, just waiting to be acknowledged and put to use. However, why isn't this fact more well known? Because it gives us a level of power that terrifies those who rely on our limits to keep us in control. The concept that we are tiny and rely on something or someone larger to attain any kind of power or accomplishment is something that governments, businesses, and even certain religious organizations want to maintain. The majority of individuals spend their whole lives unaware that they have been socialized to have this constrained perspective. They are indoctrinated to fear the new and to hold on to ideas that, when thoroughly examined, often defy logic but are maintained out of habit and fear. Believing in something that is prefabricated and doesn't call for introspection or accountability is more comfortable. After all, we are not responsible for our shortcomings or limits if God is outside of us and inaccessible, aren't we? Although this story relieves us of the burden of personal accountability, it also denies us access to our own potential. However, this notion does not satisfy the elite. They practice this reality every day in addition to believing that God is inside them. Because the creative energy we name God is not in some unreachable location, people are aware that they have the ability to mold their life and have an impact on the world. It is here right now and permeates every idea, feeling, and goal. And they may materialize their wishes and change their realities more successfully the more they are in line with this fact. It's knowledge, not magic or good fortune. Those who have been trained to see the divine as something apart from themselves may find this notion to be radical. However, what happens when you begin to wonder? When do you give yourself permission to consider the idea that what you've been taught could not be accurate? It could be unpleasant at first. The systems that have long kept us safe are shaken by questioning. However, you quickly come to understand that this pain is just the beginning of more freedom. You start to see that the restrictions you thought God had placed on you are really the result of human activity. People who have a stake in keeping this concept of separation between you and God in place. Something changes when you acknowledge that God is within of you. You no longer feel helpless or vulnerable to outside influences. Instead, you start to understand that you have the ability to create, change, and mold your world. You relate to something greater because it is a part of who you are, not because it exists outside of you. And that's precisely what the elite recognizes and uses. They create their own tales and are not constrained by the ones they have been fed. The true risk of not questioning is that you stay stuck in a perspective that was imposed on you rather than being your own. A vision that keeps you from realizing the boundless potential that already exists within of you. Asking questions is an act of curiosity and bravery rather than resistance. You may eventually break free from the chains of a story that confines you by searching for the truth. And the change starts at this point. By giving yourself permission to ask questions, you give yourself the chance to learn more about your true self and your potential. You come to understand that you may communicate with the divine directly without the need of middlemen. Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all your achievements, it feels like something essential is still missing? My name is Gabriel, and I've helped countless people like you discover the true spiritual power that resides within them. And today, I want to help you. If you feel like life is passing by while something important remains out of place, maybe it's time for an awakening. My audiobook, The Path of the Chosen, was created precisely for those who have reached this point. In this audiobook, I guide you to feel that enthusiasm for living in alignment with what truly matters, knowing that every step has meaning. Together, we'll transform your fears, traumas, and frustrations into powerful strengths that propel you to a new level of growth. Leave behind the feeling of spiritual isolation and find the peace of a true, constant connection with a greater energy that has always been by your side. Instead of fighting against what you feel, you'll learn to find purpose, serenity, and self-discovery to fill your inner world. This could be the beginning of a fuller, more meaningful life. I've seen it happen for so many others, and now it's your turn. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Click on the link pinned in the first comment and begin this journey with The Path of the Chosen. This is your chance to fill what's missing and finally live the life you deserve. I'll be waiting for you there. Intermediary is you. The link is you. And once you realize this, things that were before unthinkable begin to flow naturally. After all, you can create whatever you want if you have the divine inside you. This explains why the lives of the 1% vary greatly from those of the others. They produce miracles rather than waiting for them. You can too. It all begins with having the guts to challenge the things you've always been taught and embrace the reality of who you are. As you start to comprehend this fact, you'll understand that the teachings we've received about God have not only constrained us, but also trained us to go outside of ourselves for solutions to questions that have always been within of us. We are diverted from the most fundamental realization that we are co-creators of our universe by the notion of a distinct God who rules everything from a far-off plane. We are placed in a state of inactivity and waiting by this concept in separation. We wait for someone or something to allow us to enjoy life to the fullest, fulfill our aspirations, and discover our purpose. However, the elite know that there is nothing to be hopeful about. We already own all we need. Often referred to as God, the creative energy is impartial. In this view, there are no predetermined, selected, or favored people. Conscience is what separates individuals who are in control of their realities from those who are stuck in them. It is the realization that while everyone has this power, very few are aware of how to access and use it. This idea is not only understood, but also reinforced by the elite. They create life rather than allowing it to happen to them. All of your thoughts, choices, and feelings are deliberate and in line with your desired outcome. It's a frequent misconception that only a select few can achieve this kind of power. We have been taught, after all, that we are inadequate and that we need someone or something to rescue us and lead us. But those who profit from our ignorance have forced this notion onto us. We grow reliant on institutions that claim to be able to fill this gap when we think of ourselves as little and apart from the divine. All of these systems, religions, governments, and institutions are predicated on the notion that we need a connection to something bigger. However, what if we never lost contact? What if the thing we're searching for has always been inside? This change in viewpoint has a profoundly transformational effect. You start to grasp how strong you really are when you realize that God is a force that exists inside every thought and emotion, rather than an outside notion. And since that authority comes with responsibility, here is where a lot of people rebel. It's far simpler to attribute our difficulties to the outside world our circumstances, or even a far-off God. To assume we have control is to assume we have power. Although it might be frightening, this can also quite liberating. This responsibility does not frighten the elite. Instead, they embrace her. They are aware that they have the ability to mold their reality in ways that others may only imagine by connecting with the holy energy that is within them. They realize that action comes to pass, emotion becomes stronger, and thinking generates. This is only a practical application of a universal fact that has always been accessible to everyone. There is no mystery involved. The issue is that the majority have been taught to disregard this authority, to question themselves, and to think that they want authorization in order to get something that is really theirs. Many of the constraints you thought were real were only illusions when you start to doubt the story that has been told to you. One of these delusions is the notion that we are insignificant and need a middleman to bring us into contact with the divine. In actuality, we have never been cut off from God. The creative power that creates the cosmos has always been a part of us. All we were taught was to look in the wrong place, to anticipate what was always within by looking outside. And it is a strong fact. It serves as a reminder of our true selves, not because it elevates or distinguishes us. Our life may be shaped by our alignments and intentions, since we are creative beings who are expressions of universal energy. This realization puts us back in control of our own lives and releases us from the bonds of conformity. To use this ability, you don't have to be a member of the elite. It is a global truth that is accessible to everybody, not just a select few. All that stands between you and their comprehension is conditioning, the narrative you have come to believe to be true. It is also possible to rewrite this narrative. Asking questions, looking beyond what you have been taught, and figuring out what really speaks to you is the first step. By doing this, you start to perceive the world in a new way and restore your power. The seems unachievable becomes feasible. Obstacles become chances for development and education rather than impassable obstacles. You start to understand that you have the ability to shape your reality rather than being at the mercy of events. And this insight transforms everything. The risk lies not in asking questions, but in not asking them. In unquestioningly embracing a worldview and conception of God that restricts your possibilities. You learn that the divine is not something apart from you when you start to investigate the truth about who you are. It is something that permeates every action, every feeling, and every idea you have. And you discover that there are no restrictions on what you can create when you link yourself with this power. The elite are aware of this and use it on a regular basis. They just see what many others do not see. They do not have access to something that you do not. They understand that power is not confined to a select few or in a far-off region. We all possess it right now, just waiting to be acknowledged and put to use. You will come to see that the constraints you believe to be true were only the shadows of a tale that you might choose to ignore as you start to comprehend and experience this. The 1% realizes a fact that fundamentally alters the game, while the majority of people spend their lives waiting for something outside of themselves to change them. They don't rely on external miracles, luck, or circumstances. They realize that the energy that generates worlds, what many refer to as God, is a present and active power that exists inside each of us rather than something far away or unachievable. Furthermore, they are aware that this energy is malleable and can be changed to suit different goals, ideas, and feelings. This implies that they actively work the miracles that others just hope for, rather than passively wishing for them to occur. Their perspective on life is totally altered by this realization. For the majority, God is an outside force that determines who is deserving of rewards and who is not. However, the 1% are aware that this is a narrow perspective, a viewpoint that has been maintained to maintain people's reliance on belief systems that keep them mired in passive cycles. Rather, they acknowledge that divine energy is constantly accessible and used. For them, God is a creative energy that reacts exactly to the alignment of purpose, cognition, and emotion, rather than an authoritative person who passes judgment. This method aims to transform spirituality into something more useful and potent, rather than rejecting it. According to them, spirituality is a science of creation, a method that can be comprehended and used to change every facet of existence. For the 1%, the manifestation of love, riches, or health that many find otherworldly is just the application of universal rules that everyone can access. They see reality as a field of limitless possibilities that can be changed by whomever masters these rules, rather than as something set in stone and unchangeable. The 1% simplifies everything, while the majority believe that in order to succeed, they must adhere to rigid regulations, intricate customs, or appease some external force. They realize that there is no need for middlemen in order to have a genuine relationship with God. It isn't about increasing one's actions, prayers, or sacrifices. It has to do with alignment. In line with what? Recognizing that your ideas are directives to the universe, that your feelings are the energy that drives these directives, and that your actions are the manifestation of this moving energy. And this leads us to an important realization. They recognize the interconnectedness of all things. Action, emotion, and thought are not distinct entities. They are a component of an ongoing flow that produces remarkable outcomes when properly guided. The 1% differs from the rest of mankind in that they do not allow their thoughts to stray or their emotions to override their aims. Knowing that every one of these factors directly affects what will materialize, they practice their thoughts, choose their feelings, and behave precisely. This is neither a special talent nor a natural aptitude. Anyone is able to learn and use it. The difference is that the 1% make deliberate and regular use of their power, whilst the majority are unaware of it. They refuse to let their interior states be dictated by outside factors. Conversely, they are aware that their internal moods are reflected directly in their outward reality, and as a result, they intentionally and purposefully mold their lives. All too often, people assume that the 1% is fortunate or enjoys advantages that the others do not. However, what seems to be chance is really a profound comprehension of cosmic rules. They are aware that cause and effect, not chance, govern how the universe functions. All thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are causes that result in matching effects. They have a feeling of confidence and control that most people never have because of this awareness. However, why isn't this fact more commonly recognized? Because the system as we know it would collapse if it did. Religions, companies, and governments all rely on individuals not realizing their own power. They flourish in a culture that looks beyond itself for answers to internal issues and feels helpless. Additionally, the 1% continue to develop their own answers while the others keep their eyes on the outside, hoping for rescues that never materialize. This method is neither magical nor unachievable. The indoctrination you've been subjected to from infancy is the only thing standing in your way of this comprehension. You start to create space for previously concealed truths when you begin to challenge the things you were taught about God, the world, and yourself. And that's the secret, the readiness to question conventional wisdom, investigate new concepts, and see for yourself what is feasible. You possess divine power that is just waiting to be released. It is not restricted to any one person, nor does it take sides or draw differences. Knowledge and application are what set people who utilize it well apart from those who don't. There is nothing that the 1% lacks that you do. They just grasped something that most people haven't yet learned, that God is within, not outside, and that reality is malleable. This power is accessible to anybody who is prepared to acknowledge and use it. Those who have always thought that power is found outside of oneself may find this fact audacious or even unsettling. But as soon as you begin to investigate this concept, you find it to be very freeing. It not only returns your life to you, but it also removes the need to look to other people for acceptance or affirmation. You know you have all you need to design the life you want when you comprehend that God is the creative force that permeates you. Anyone who is ready to see above their self-imposed constraints might discover the secret reality that the 1% live every day. Your whole perspective on the world and yourself is altered by this groundbreaking realization. What seemed to be an impenetrable barrier is now being revealed as a chance for development. We now know that alignment and purpose are the primary causes of what formerly seemed to be luck or coincidence. Victimhood and passivity are unacceptable to the 1%. They feel happy and content without waiting for the world to change. They are aware that the outside world will unavoidably adapt to reflect this new frequency as they alter their inner world, which includes their ideas, feelings, and beliefs. The 1% behave consciously, focusing their energy in a deliberate manner, while the bulk restrict themselves to just responding to events. They are not concerned with how things will transpire. Rather, they have faith in alignment's power. They specify their desires precisely, synchronize their feelings and thoughts with those desires, and let universal energy take care of the rest. This faith is founded on the experiences of those who regularly see their goals come true, so it is not blind. This does not imply that they do not encounter difficulties. The 1% has challenges as well, but how they see and respond to them differs. They perceive chances to hone their intents and deepen their connection with the inner force, where others see insurmountable challenges. They are aware that every obstacle comes with a lesson, an opportunity to improve their vibration and broaden their awareness. They are resilient because of this mindset, able to overcome any hardship without losing sight of their larger goal. It is freeing and transforming to think of God as a malleable force, an energy that reacts to your inner condition. It puts you in control of creating your reality and does away with the need for middlemen. Being conscious of your thoughts and feelings is a duty that goes along with this ability. The 1% is aware that there is a frequency associated with each thought and emotion, regardless of how little, that helps shape their world. They teach you to concentrate on the important things and prevent your mind from wandering or being sidetracked. One of the most significant distinctions between the 1% and the rest of mankind is this mental discipline. Despite their imperfections, they are always deliberate. They are aware that they must be in a state of harmony with their desired manifestation in order to build the life they want. It goes beyond just disregarding issues or adopting an optimistic outlook. It's about approaching life from a viewpoint based on the knowledge that everything is energy and that they have the ability to control it. Fear prevents a lot of individuals from using this same ability. Fear of challenging their education, fear of being accountable for one's own life, fear of not succeeding. However, the 1% understands, and this is crucial for everyone, that fear is only an indication that you are acting based on a narrow set of beliefs. You find that the only true limit is the one you set for yourself when you get over your fear and start to investigate what it really means to be a co-creator of your world. The fact that this information is public knowledge is the most intriguing aspect. He was constantly there, just out of sight. This fact is supported by spiritual teachings, ancient writings, and even contemporary science. We are all energy, interconnected with the cosmos, and possess the ability to influence our own life via our awareness. The 1%, however, research, implement, and live by these principles, whereas the bulk disregard or reject them. This is the nature of reality. It is not magic. This viewpoint extends an invitation to everyone. Access to this power does not need membership in a social or financial elite. Anyone who is prepared to broaden their awareness and assume the role of creator in their own life may access it. It is universal. The 1% shows that by comprehending and putting these principles into practice, you may both change your outward world and rediscover your own divine nature. It's crucial to keep in mind that this isn't about doing more or demonstrating something to others. It's all about remembering your true self. It's about leading an honest life and realizing that you are capable of creating from a position of fullness and plenty rather than one of need or desperation. There is nothing to be afraid of and plenty to discover when you recognize that God is the creative energy within of you. What distinguishes the 1% is this fact. They are neither superior nor unique. They just embraced and used the knowledge that is accessible to everybody. The issue is, would you be prepared to follow suit? Letting go of constricting ideas, challenging your education, and discovering the limitless potential inside you. At the end of the day, you already have everything you need. Therefore, the solution is up to you. You possess the divine power. All you need to do is discover it and use it to create the life you've always desired. We have been taught throughout history that God is something distinct, far away, and unreachable. A strong but distant force that oversaw our lives from a distance, determining our fate and dictating what we could and could not have. Some people found solace in this notion, but it also made us feel constrained. She encouraged us to rely on something or someone to help us connect with the divine and to search outside for solutions. However, what if this story is incorrect? What if that is just the reverse of the greatest mystery about God? For the 1%, this fact, that God is not something apart from us but rather an essential component of who we are, is an indisputable fact. This creative energy, which forms planets, stars, and the cosmos as a whole, is present both within and outside of us. And it's literal, not a good metaphor or an abstract idea. Every idea, feeling, and belief we have is infused with divine energy, which is the same energy that gives everything life. This indicates that everyone has the inherent right to create, alter, and materialize. It is not a luxury that is only granted to a select few. Understanding this link is what separates individuals who acknowledge and use this ability from those who do not. What formerly seemed unattainable becomes feasible when we realize that God is within of us. We no longer have to wait for an outside force to help us, look outside, or ask for miracles. In actuality, we already own all we need. The 1% is aware of this and abides by it. They see God as an extension of themselves, a source of boundless energy that can be used to create any desired reality, rather than as something to be passively worshipped. Their perception of the world and their way of living are both altered by this realization. This shift in viewpoint is freeing. You start to see that there are no actual boundaries to your potential when you acknowledge that you are not distinct from the divine. Previously insurmountable obstacles become overcomable obstacles. Long-distant desires start to match with your energy, opening doors and possibilities you couldn't have seen before. All of this is a result of the creative power that we refer to as God being a part of you, as well as responding to you. Your external world changes as you undergo internal transformation. The 1% uses that strength purposefully, which is something that most people still don't grasp. They are aware that every belief determines what will materialize, every emotion amplifies directed energy, and every idea serves as an instruction. They align themselves with the assurance that they already have what they desire, rather than wasting energy on questions or uncertainty. Since acting and praying are both manifestations of the same creative force that permeates them, they see no distinction between the two. This does not imply that difficulties will go away or that life will always be simple. However, when you recognize that God is within you, obstacles cease to be something that occurs against you and instead become opportunities for personal development. You begin to perceive yourself as an active co-creator of your world, rather than as a victim of your circumstances. One of the most important lessons we may take away is that we are here to influence the world in accordance with our true selves, not to exist at its mercy. There is no need for middlemen or complex rituals to establish this relationship with the Almighty. To be worthy of this power, one must not adhere to customs or regulations. You already have it. It was always that way. The 1% just acknowledges this and takes action based on their comprehension. They see spirituality as the foundation of all they do, not as something apart from their daily lives. Every idea, choice, and goal is infused with the knowledge that they are direct expressions of the all-pervading creative power. You are too. You don't have to search outside to find what is already inside. This is the big secret that has been kept so secret for so long. You may access what is already legally yours without the requirement for outside confirmation. There is divine energy just waiting to be discovered and used. A deliberate union with this energy is what most people see as luck, a miracle, or privilege. Your life starts to alter in seemingly inconceivable ways when you believe this, live it, and put it into practice. The conditioning we are exposed to from a young age is what keeps us from experiencing this reality. We were indoctrinated to think narrowly, to see ourselves as incomplete, and to assume that we need something outside of ourselves to be whole. However, we discover that there was never a gap between God and us when we start to doubt these ideas. It was a fabrication designed to conceal our actual strength. In actuality, humans have always had a connection to the divine. This power has always been ours. We just disregard it. Everything changes the moment you begin to recall. You begin to explore what's within instead of frantically looking for anything outside. Start to realize that your emotions are instruments for directing energy rather than only being responses. That your thoughts are orders to the cosmos, not simply ideas. That the world you perceive is based on your beliefs, which are more than just views. The 1% are aware of this and live by it. You can too. There are no limits to the creative energy that pours inside you. She is not biased, does not take sides, and does not put up obstacles. She just answers. It reacts to your thoughts, emotions, and convictions. You start to feel the power that has always been inside you when you bring these three things into alignment: thought, emotion, and belief. Just a profound awareness of your innate connection to the divine is all that is required. There are no mysteries. The real God is something you are, not something that exists in the distance. An infinite extension that is always present via you. The concept that you and God are separate has always been a cleverly crafted deception, as you discover when you completely embrace this fact. This delusion, which has been maintained for many centuries, has caused us to become disconnected from our own strength and to feel helpless and reliant on outside assistance. But when you start to see that God is within of you, you realize that you are the one who created your reality and have the ability to mold it into what you really want out of life, not a beggar begging for scraps from the cosmos. This assurance permeates the lives of the 1%. They see heavenly energy as an extension of their own awareness and a tool. They do not see this creative power as unachievable, since they are aware that they are not distinct from it. They have access to, control, and mold it. They respect her by living fully as aware co-creators, rather than bowing down to her in obedience. The main distinction is that they create something, whilst other people wait for it to happen. They don't search beyond themselves for what they already possess. This realization significantly transforms your self-perception in addition to your relationship with the divine. You start to see that you already have everything you need. You are already complete. Therefore, there's no need to look for outside approval. You already possess the ability to generate miracles. Therefore, you don't need to ask for them. Fear is also dispelled by this realization, along with the sense of lack. Only when there is separation is there fear. What is there to fear when you realize that you are a part of the power that generates everything? This spiritual link is something that must be acknowledged rather than something that must be accomplished. And 1% does just that. They don't care what others think about how God ought to be or how spirituality ought to function. They concentrate on living in accordance with the inner strength they are aware of. They realize that living in unison with the creative power that permeates everything is what genuine spirituality is all about, not according to laws that have been imposed. You also start to see changes when you adopt this viewpoint. Maybe little at first, but strong. It starts to understand that your thoughts are more than just ideas, that your goals matter, and that what you concentrate on developing has weight. It begins to understand that altering your thoughts and emotions may really change the environment you live in. This is the nature of reality. It is not an exaggeration. Everything that we see, feel, and encounter is a manifestation of creative energy. and anything becomes feasible when you connect yourself with this energy. Life is now something that occurs through you, rather than something that happens to you. You begin to understand that you have the ability to influence the situation and cease feeling like a victim of it. This does not imply that difficulties will go away. Rather, it means that you will confront them with the assurance that you possess the divine power inside you. And this self-assurance is what sets 1% apart from the rest of mankind. It is not that they are fearful or doubtful. Rather, it is that they do not let these emotions control them. They are aware that they can conquer any challenge if they unite themselves with divine energy. Although this view is very freeing, it also comes with responsibilities. You can no longer attribute your issues to the outside world once you acknowledge that God is within of you. You know that the world you create is your responsibility. Although it can seem frightening at first, this is the secret to living a free and powerful life. Because you have the ability to alter your reality if you take responsibility for it. When you link yourself with the power that creates universes, nothing is beyond your grasp. The majority of folks pause at this point. It is simpler to maintain our faith in a different God, object, or person who will deliver us. This idea relieves us of accountability, but it also denies us authority. Although the 1% is aware that this authority entails complete responsibility for its lives, it has decided to accept it. They are aware that this is a little cost in exchange for the ability to shape their own worlds. Additionally, you have this option. You have two options. You may continue to believe in chance and separation, or you can begin to discover that you already possess all you need. It may start to realize that all ideas, feelings, and convictions are expressions of heavenly power. And in the process, it might start to change your life in ways that didn't seem imaginable before. We refer to the unlimited creative energy as God. It has no preferences, no sides, and no discrimination. She is only permeating everyone and everything. The degree of awareness is the sole distinction between those who live in harmony with it and those who do not. You start to see that there are no boundaries to your potential when you acknowledge that you are linked to this power and that it is a part of who you are. 1% of people live with this reality every day. It is a reality accessible to everyone who is prepared to see beyond the delusions we were taught, not a secret kept for a select few. You are God. It has always been. It is entirely up to you how you use this power. We were trained early on to steer clear of challenging topics, particularly those pertaining to God. We are unable to delve deeply into what was offered to us as ultimate truth because of a kind of respect that is instilled, almost like an invisible wall. This obstacle was put in place to keep us inside cozy bounds and stop us from questioning concepts that would in some way set us free. What happens, after all, when you begin to doubt something that has long been taken for granted? There is fear. Fear of being incorrect. Fear of losing something holy. Fear of the unknown. However, the 1% is aware that accepting things without inquiry poses a greater risk than questioning them. They are aware that this passive acceptance is what prevents us from realizing our full potential. Asking questions shows boldness rather than disobedience or contempt. It is an indication that you are prepared to investigate the true meaning of having a spiritual connection. And when you start to think critically, you see that a lot of what you were taught was about control rather than God in yourself. Command of your thoughts, actions, and most importantly, your power. It is not normal for us to experience this worry. When we ask questions, it had a condition. We are indoctrinated from a young age to believe that God is unquestionable and that our role is to just accept and follow. Although some people find solace in this story, it also deprives us of the chance to learn the truth for ourselves. Furthermore, the reality is that there is no way to define or categorize God. Human language and thoughts cannot contain the boundless creative power of God. You begin to escape the confines you were put in when you begin to ask questions. Just 1% of people are afraid to ask questions. They are aware that by questioning established notions, They create space for fresh perspectives and understandings. They realize that the solutions they are looking for are inside them, rather than in doctrines or customs. Asking questions is like opening a window in a dark room. All of a sudden, light comes in, and you can see what was previously unseen, but has always been there. The realization that there was never a gap between you and God is this light. It was really an illusion, sustained by ideas that were sent to us before we had a chance to consider them. As you start to think critically, you see that the majority of the constraints you took for granted were imposed by outside narratives. Among such myths is the notion that God is apart from you and that you must interact with the divine via rituals or mediators. The 1% is aware that conscience alone is necessary for a genuine relationship with God. They are aware that by pondering and investigating these realities, they may start to unlock the limitless potential that is within each of us. At first, this questioning process may be awkward. We are, after all, confronting years, if not decades, of training. However, this pain is required. He is the indication that we are stepping beyond of our comfort zone, both spiritually and mentally, to make place for something greater. The 1% embraces this pain because it knows it will pass, and that freedom is the alternative. They are aware that all it takes is inquiry to reach the truth they are free to discover, that God exists inside them rather than outside of them, and that they are co-creators of their worlds. It is not necessary to deny or demolish beliefs in order to question them. It entails examining, comprehending, and deliberately choosing what makes sense to you. It involves separating what was imposed by others from what is really yours. The 1% accepts nothing without question. They are aware that the majority are trapped in cycles of restriction because of unquestioning acquiescence. They decide to question these notions in order to discover what really speaks to their core. You can do this as well. You learn more about God and yourself as you begin to ask questions. You come to see that many of the obstacles you encountered were not genuine, but rather the result of constricting ideas you unknowingly adopted. These obstacles start to fall away as you ask questions. You come to see that the power you believe to be external has always been inside. This insight radically alters your perspective on life, which makes it transformational. You no longer wait for approval to pursue your goals or be who you are. You begin to realize it is already whole, already good, and already linked. The 1% does not believe that God should be feared or worshipped from afar. They consider God to be a part of themselves, a force that permeates their intents, feelings, and ideas. And they are aware that they can only get this awareness by challenging the constrained conceptions of God. They question the stories they were told, not to disprove them, but to get a new perspective. They gained access to power via this act of questioning that has always been open to everyone, but seemed to be out of reach to most. The questioning is an act of exploitation rather than denial. It's the first step to discovering that you've always had what you're looking for inside of you. It's similar to peeling back the layers of false ideas that have masked the reality. When this reality sets in, you come to see that there is no distance, no separation, and no one to overcome. You're already in contact. You were and always were. The ability to question is the ability to liberate oneself, free from the restrictions placed upon you, from the tales that made you feel little, and from the notion that God is beyond your grasp. Asking creates opportunities for new connections, understandings, and lifestyles. 1% does not fear the challenging inquiries because of this. They are aware that every inquiry leads them nearer to the truth, and that the freedom and capacity to completely exist as co-creators of reality accompany this truth. Are you prepared to begin asking questions? Something profound begins to take place inside of you when you choose to ask questions. It's as if a fresh viewpoint is triggered, enabling you to look beyond the layers of indoctrination that have always encircled you. You start to notice that the concepts that were formerly taken for granted may not be all that strong. Additionally, there is now room for flexibility and an opportunity to discover what really speaks to its core. The 1% is well aware of this. Since they are aware that the truth will always outlive the question, they are not scared to challenge the narratives that have been forced onto them. 1% realizes that, contrary to popular opinion, questioning leads to a more genuine relationship with God, while the majority worry that it would destroy their most profound beliefs. They are aware that confronting all of their limitations is the only way to really unlock their limitless potential. This method produces clarity rather than chaos or confusion. They come away with a greater comprehension of what it means to be a conscious creator of their world and to have a connection to the divine. Asking questions is a type of freedom in and of itself. It eliminates the unseen currents that hold us back in the narratives we don't select. You start to see that a lot of the things you thought were yours were really handed down to you by parents, instructors, faiths, and civilizations. This does not imply that all of what he has been taught is untrue, but rather that not all of it has been intended to give him more authority. The 1% is aware of this and thoroughly considers each notion before taking it at face value. They recognize that genuine insight can only be discovered when you give yourself permission to explore. Therefore, they don't take anything for granted. Asking questions is difficult. It's not comfy. Because you start to detach yourself from the popularly held beliefs, it might produce emotions of confusion and even loneliness. However, the ability to change lies inside this suffering. Since the 1% is aware that this process is just transitory, it does not dread it. For them, asking questions is a means of bridging the gap between the past and the future. The freedom to live in accordance with its truth lies on the other side of this bridge. When you challenge the notion that God and you are distinct, you find something revolutionary. There has never been such a separation. The delusion that God is far away was created to prevent you from discovering your own inner strength. This concept served as a kind of control to maintain its reliance on intermediary and external systems. However, when you question this notion, you discover that the divine has always been accessible to you and has permeated your beliefs, feelings, and ideas. 1% of people live with this reality every day. They realize that God is discovered in moments of profound self-connection rather than in books or temples. They understand that conscience, not surrender, is what the divine requires. It starts to access this consciousness when you challenge the tales that have been told. You come to understand that you already have the right to connect with the divine and do not need permission to do so. You don't need to turn away from what's already inside. The questioning is an act of exploitation rather than rejection. It is an invitation to discover your own reality free from the burden of outside influences. Since they understand that real power comes from forming their own worldview, the 1% refuses to accept ready facts. Instead of destroying the current quo, they want to create something that is more in line with its core values. You are also capable of doing it. Every inquiry you make opens the door to a fresh realization. Each response you discover is a component of a bigger picture that shows you who you really are. The truth about God, about reality, and about yourself was never anything that could be encapsulated in a single thought or dogma. As you give yourself permission to investigate, you uncover it in layers. The first stage in this process is to ask questions. It is the action that creates space for something greater by rupturing the unseen currents. And when you start asking questions, you notice that what 1% knows is not a secret, but rather a universal truth that has always been available to anybody who is prepared to look for it. You are not apart from God, which is a simple but profound reality. You've never been. And the route that returns you to this accomplishment is the act of asking questions. When you comprehend this, you come to the realization that your potential is limitless. You take control of your own story and are no longer a prisoner of the tales that are given to you. And that's what 1%'s power is all about. They are the same as you. They just decided to inquire. Are you prepared to follow suit? Many of us have been trained to embrace God's conventional worldview, which centers on unwavering devotion and obedience. We have been taught that our only responsibility is to obey, abide by the law, and bide our time until some outside power bestows gifts upon us. 1%, however, perceives something very different. For them, God is a strong, malleable force that can be tapped and guided to produce the desired reality rather than a remote entity that should be appeased. The connection with the divine is totally altered by this realization, which turns it from a passive object of devotion into an active instrument of creation. This method is very useful in transforming, despite first seeming surprising or even insulting. The 1% is aware that God is not a power that must be obeyed, yet they nevertheless want to be acknowledged and used. They realize that this heavenly force is impartial, judgment-free, and conditionless. It only reacts to vibration, attention, and purpose. And that's precisely why it's so strong. They see God as a force that runs through them and can be used to create whatever they choose, rather than as an entity that exists outside of them. This does not imply that 1% disbelieves in spirituality, as is often assumed. Instead, they take a deeply spiritual stance, but this stance is not based on deference or acquiescence. Its foundation is in the realm of inner strength. They are aware that genuine spirituality is about identifying and using your inner creative energy, rather than according to a set of rules from the outside. They are liberated by this perspective from the constraints imposed by the institutions that held people to a standard of fear and obedience for millennia. The fact that this strategy returns power to the person is what makes it so effective. 1% takes charge, while the majority wait for an outside force to alter their reality. They are aware that they possess the potential to influence their lives, and that this power lies in their capacity to access and channel divine energy rather than in customs, laws, or beliefs. For them, spirituality is about doing action rather than waiting. It is about producing, not about submitting. 1% seems to exist at a separate level, which may be explained by this viewpoint. They amass riches, power, and influence because they apply an insight that most others have never thought of, not because they possess something that others do not. They are aware that God is the all-pervading creative power, and that everything they choose may be created with this force. Since they are aware that the only true boundary is the belief you choose to focus your energies on, they sense no boundaries. The most crucial thing to remember is that they are not the only ones with this ability. Anyone who is willing to comprehend and use this information may access it. The difference is that the majority have never been instructed to think in that manner. Instead, we have been conditioned to think that we are weak, that we must earn everything that comes from the divine, and that power is outside of us. 1% disapproved of this story. Since they are aware that they have never required permission, they do not anticipate it in order to reach the divine. They are in a position of strength that most people do not think is conceivable because they live with the conviction that God's power is their power. But not many people are aware of this, and there's a rationale behind it. The whole system of control that governs the universe would fall apart if everyone realized that God is not unreachable, but rather a powerful force that shapes reality. All systems, governments, churches, and corporations are predicated on the notion that you need them in order to live, thrive, or have a spiritual connection. These systems would become ineffective if individuals understood that they already had everything they need. The 1% is aware of this, but they often choose to conceal it. The best part of this position, however, is that you may access this information without their consent. Anyone who is prepared to investigate and challenge what they were taught may access it. God's strength, this boundless creative energy, is not exclusive to the few. He is ubiquitous. It doesn't choose sides, discriminate, or give preference to anybody. It only reacts to those who utilize and recognize it. However, this realization necessitates a significant shift in your perspective on the world and yourself. It calls on you to give up the notion that you are helpless and that you must wait for someone else to provide your blessings or solve your difficulties. You must accept responsibility for the fact that your ideas, feelings, and beliefs are reflected in your reality. And for most individuals, this is the hardest part. For while knowing that you have the ability to create is freeing, it also implies that you are accountable for the things you produce. This obligation does not frighten the 1%. They accept it because they are aware that it contains their actual freedom. They see God as an energy to be accessed, molded, and guided rather than as a force to be feared or worshipped from afar. Life does not happen to them. Life is made possible by them, and you are also capable of doing just that. The realization that the only limit to what you can create is your own imagination comes when you learn to see God as a tool, not as something you use carelessly, but as a power you carefully guide. You take action instead of waiting. You become the creator of your own life rather than just watching it. And it's that distinction that changes everything. What 1% knows, and you have access to, is that God's power is the power of creation. He is inside, not outside. And you discover that nothing is beyond your grasp once you learn to access and use this power. Everything that you need is already here. All you have to do is acknowledge and use what has always been yours. Your connection with life radically alters when you really grasp the idea that God is a creative instrument, not some far-off and unachievable force, but one that is inexpensive and malleable. You start to see that you don't have to wait on approvals, validations, or indicators from other sources. You already own everything you need to change your world. This is the core of what 1% comprehends and uses in their day-to-day activities. They acknowledge that every thought, every intention, and every emotion channels this divine energy to produce the desired outcomes, and they live as diligent co-creators. The notion that God is a tool elevates the divine to a more personal and useful level rather than diminishing it. This perspective dissolves the distinction between the spiritual and the human, enabling you to see the divine as something that can be accessible within rather than as something that must be sought for outside. The 1% is aware that complex rituals or mindless obedience are not necessary for this energy. Clarity, aim, and alignment are necessary. And that's precisely what enables them to bring their dreams to life so successfully. 1% functions at a different frequency, while the majority of people continue to hold on to the notion that one must appease a greater power in order to be blessed. They understand that this power operates via alignment rather than bias. They see God as an energy that instantly reacts to your vibrations, rather than as something that grants arbitrary requests. They have a feeling of duty and control that most people never have because of this awareness. They are aware that the cosmos just reflects your alignments and does not pass judgment. In addition to changing each person's life, this strategy places them in a position of authority and influence that the others don't appear to be able to match. They apply these universal principles deliberately and persistently, which is why they amass money, establish empires, and influence the world around them, not because they are unique or fortunate. Since they are aware that uncertainty and unwarranted dread only serve to further obstruct things, they do not spend energy on them. Rather, they concentrate their hearts and thoughts on what they want to materialize, believing that divine energy would take care of the rest. What's most intriguing is that everyone can access this energy. It is a universal reality that is accessible to everybody who is prepared to challenge the narratives that have been forced upon them and consider other options. It is not a luxury that is exclusive to the privileged. What 1% did was acknowledge this fact and put it to use. They were not constrained by the ideas or structures that kept them tiny. They made the decision to see God as an integral part of themselves, rather than as something apart. And everything has altered because of this decision. Applying this same perspective makes it clear that spirituality is about creativity rather than subjection. Aligning yourself with the energy that already exists inside you is more important than appeasing anything outside of yourself. This viewpoint removes the need for middlemen or outside approvals and gives the person back control. You start to realize that you are here to create, grow, and experience all that this divine energy has to give, not to live a life of waiting and restriction. Lack of awareness, not a lack of ability, is what keeps most people from using this gift. We are taught to feel tiny, that we have little power, and that we must work hard to get what we want. The 1%, however, disagrees with this story. They are aware that divine energy is unconditional, and conditionless. She just answers. They are able to successfully construct their reality because of this insight, which also puts them ahead. This power is also yours. It always has. The only difference is that the majority are still mired in narratives that hold them apart from that power, while 1% have made the decision to acknowledge and use it. Fortunately, it is possible to rewrite these tales. Just by altering your perspective on God, the divine, and yourself, you can begin right now. You might begin to perceive God as something that serves through you, rather than as something you serve. A creative energy that is prepared to be molded in accordance with your alignment and goal. Herein lies the essence of using God as a tool. It is about alignment and recognition, not control or manipulation. Knowing that you are a part of this creative energy and that it can be used intentionally to build a life that aligns with your innermost wishes is the key. This is a universal right, not only for a select few. All you have to do is acknowledge this, take deliberate action, and let the holy energy freely flow through you. Because it dispels the feeling of helplessness, this realization is freeing. She regains control and reminds him that you are the creator of the situation, rather than a victim of it. And 1% is aware of this. Beyond the fact that they have chosen to see the world in a manner that empowers them, there is nothing unique about them. You have this option as well. It all begins with the choice to see God as the power that is already inside you, rather than as something that is far away. Everything becomes feasible from there. 1%'s knowledge of divine energy and the power of awareness fundamentally reinterprets what it means to create itself. They see that God is the life energy that pervades everything, not a distinct entity. It doesn't need unique circumstances to access this energy, nor is it exclusive to a select few. She is only reacting to her ideas, feelings, and beliefs all the time as she moves through the cosmos. Knowing how this energy functions distinguishes individuals who utilize it actively from others, who allow it to flow inadvertently. There is no discrimination from this holy energy. Whether what you desire is good or evil, merited or not, is not something she judges. She just answers. And what you project via your awareness determines this response. Your beliefs are the molds that determine the ultimate shape of that energy. Your thoughts are orders, and your emotions are fuel. The 1% is well aware of this. They are aware that their internal condition is directly reflected in the world they encounter. As a result, they create these conditions from the inside out, rather than responding to them. However, the majority of individuals live their lives as if life occurs to them, rather than through them. They believe they have little control over the events that occur around them, and are thus at the mercy of the situation. The big error is this. 1% is aware that reality is really a projection of your constant vibrations, a mental construct. They also have influence over their lives when they are in control of their brains. They realize that conscience is where it all begins, with the ideas you nurture, the feelings you stoke, and the convictions you hold. Extensive ceremonies or complicated procedures are not necessary for this insight. Alignment is all that is needed. Being in alignment entails always being conscious of the signals you send out into the cosmos. It entails realizing that every idea, no matter how little, has a vibration that helps shape its reality. Every belief is deliberately picked, every emotion is guided, and every thought is deliberate for 1%. Their ability to pay attention to their inner condition is what enables them to precisely and swiftly actualize their objectives. You don't have to search for divine energy. It already exists inside you and permeates all of your thoughts and emotions. However, clarity is the key to properly accessing it. When your beliefs, feelings, and ideas are in harmony, manifestations occur spontaneously and energy flows freely. Most people's concern is that they send out conflicting messages. They think they will never be able to achieve what they want. They fear, yet they imagine much. Blockages caused by this mismatch stop energy from emerging as intended, because they not only know what they want, but also firmly feel that they deserve and can attain it. The 1% transcends these barriers. They did not come to hold this notion by accident. It is developed with regular self-awareness, affirmation, and visualization exercises. They dispel ideas that restrict them and surround themselves with ideas that support their aspirations. They realize that the only thing they really have power over is their internal states, and by controlling them, they gain dominance over everything else. Anxiety about the future is also removed by this comprehension. The 1% live with assurance and certainty, while the others constantly worry about what will happen next. They are aware that the universe will react if they maintain mental and emotional alignment with their objectives. This does not imply that they do not encounter difficulties or failures. However, they remain in charge of their responses even under these circumstances, understanding that their vibration will ultimately dictate the result. The fact that this idea is not exclusive is its most potent feature. It is not exclusive to the wealthy or spiritually affluent. Anyone who wants to understand and use these facts may do so, since it is universal. Their readiness to accept accountability for their own conscience is what sets the 1% apart from the others. They look within and make the necessary adjustments rather than blaming the outside world for their situation. You start to see how important it is to be awake, and in the moment when you realize that every thought is a command, you begin to guide your thoughts with purpose and cease allowing them to stray. This does not imply that you will never have doubts or negative ideas, but it does imply that you will learn to identify and reroute them before they lead to unintended consequences. Although this practice demands focus and self-control, the benefits are priceless. The ability to design the life you choose. This understanding permeates the lives of the 1%. They are aware that they are extensions of the divine force rather than anything apart from it. You have the self-assurance and ability to consciously build your reality because of this understanding. They know that they are the miracles, therefore they don't wait for them. You may also live this way. Realizing that God is within, not outside, is the first step. It is possible to tap this holy force rather than dominate it, and that you become the conscious creator of your own reality by bringing your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs into alignment. The core of what the 1% comprehend and use is this, and everyone who is prepared to acknowledge it may access this reality. The universe reacts to everyone based on their emissions. He does not distinguish between different people. You may alter your life by altering your vibration, which is a result of altering your awareness. Are you prepared to take charge and begin making things on purpose? Because heavenly energy is constantly there and just has to be guided by you. All creation is based on thoughts, but most individuals handle them in an unorganized and unconscious manner. Rather than being a deliberate guide for what we want to materialize, ideas often emerge as reflexive reactions to outside events, reflecting the settings we encounter. The main distinction between the majority and the 1% may be found here. Thoughts are not seen as passive or unimportant by the 1%. They realize that every idea is a seed sown in the universe's limitless field, with the power to create transformations and mold reality. Consider tossing a stone into a body of water. It causes ripples that affect the world around it and spread in all directions. The same is true of thoughts. Your every thought generates a frequency, a vibration that echoes through the fabric of reality. Experiences, people, and situations are either attracted to or repelled by these vibrations, which interact with the global energy field. 1% of people live with this consciousness in a direct and practical manner, despite the fact that it may appear abstract. They are aware that every thought is an order to the cosmos, one that will be carried out in accordance with the motivation and energy that gave rise to it. 1% consciously projects what they desire, whilst the majority of individuals use their mental energy to respond to what is occurring. This projection involves more than simply thinking positively. It involves forming a strong, distinct picture of what you want to materialize. They create an alignment that fortifies your aims by fusing your ideas with emotion and belief. This is due to the fact that believing and feeling are essential. Just thinking is insufficient. Belief is the mold that shapes what will materialize, and emotion is the gasoline that amplifies the influence of thinking. But the majority of individuals lead misaligned lives. They have a goal in mind, yet their feelings and ideas run counter to that desire. For instance, someone could imagine plenty, yet fear scarcity. The capacity of cognition is diminished by the perplexing frequency produced by this battle. In order to overcome this, the 1% fully align their beliefs, feelings, and objectives. They ponder plenty, experience the delight of having it now, and firmly believe that it is both feasible and inevitable. It is this congruence that turns ideas become concrete reality. Focus and a clear aim are essential for employing ideas as creative tools. The 1% don't let their thoughts stray. They approach their ideas as if they were well-tuned instruments, each one selected to complement the outcomes they want to achieve. They are aware that irrational or pessimistic ideas might lead to needless barriers. As a result, they make it a practice to monitor their thoughts and reroute those that are not in line with their objectives. This degree of focus and mental discipline is not something that just occurs. It's a habit. The 1% spend time training their brains, whether it's via visualization, meditation, or just being conscious of the way they think. They are aware that, depending on how it is used, the mind may be either a quiet foe or a strong friend. As a result, individuals deliberately decide to use their ideas as allies in order to produce the reality they want. However, how can this be used in real life? Begin by focusing on your everyday thoughts. Take note of whether they are centered on your limits, uncertainties, and worries, or on what you really desire. Redirect your thoughts when you see they aren't helping you achieve your objectives. Substitute it with an idea that aligns with your desired outcome. This goes beyond simple optimistic thinking. It involves teaching your mind to function in a state of energy alignment and conscious purpose. Make an emotional connection with your ideas as well. For instance, you must experience victory as if it were already real. Just thinking about it is insufficient. Consider what it might be like to lead the life you want. Experience the happiness, thankfulness, and self-assurance that come from having previously accomplished your goals. Your ideas become considerably more powerful as a result of this emotional connection. Every day, the 1% live with this consciousness. They are aware that their thoughts have the capacity to influence reality, and that their mind is their most potent instrument. They take advantage of this possibility because they know that creation is not random. Selecting which concepts to accept and which to reject is the first step in this deliberate process. And anybody can do this. Access to this ability does not need membership in an elite group. Anyone who wants to take charge of their mental health may use it. You discover that you have much more influence over your life than you previously believed when you begin to use your ideas as creative tools. You take control of your world and cease being a victim of events. And the first step in this metamorphosis is something so basic but so potent, deliberately selecting your thoughts. The 1% seem to function at a higher level because they are aware of this. They don't let the mind run their life. Instead, it controls your thoughts, which in turn governs your reality. Now is the time for you to begin. Take note of your ideas at the moment. Which reality are they constructing? The one you fear or the one you want? Since the power of thinking is ultimately the ability to create, the solution is in your hands, and you already possess this ability, just waiting to be utilized in a manner that is aligned and aware. The world you inhabit in future will be shaped by your thoughts now. This is the real meaning of thinking as a tool for creativity. The emotion that goes along with thinking is the real energy underlying conscious creativity. Thought is like a map, showing you exactly where you want to go, but emotion is what makes that map come to pass. The 1% have a profound understanding of this and utilize it to precisely realize their desires. They are aware that without emotional vigor, thought is impersonal, and lacks the will to bring about real change. Thoughts come to life because of emotion. Every emotion has a unique vibrational frequency that the cosmos can relate to. When you experience anything strongly, you are sending out a strong vibration that draws similar experiences. This is among the factors that contribute to the limiting effects of uncertainty and dread. The predominant frequency will be one of worry or doubt if you see plenty, but are worried about losing it, or question if it is achievable. These feelings will be reflected back to you by the universe, which reacts to the increased vibration, giving you more circumstances that align with them. The 1% get beyond this barrier by fully coordinating their thoughts and feelings. They experience success, riches, and power as if they were already a part of their existence. They don't merely think about them. They achieve a perfect resonance between their thoughts and feelings by entering an emotional state of trust, thankfulness, and assurance. This resonance is what brings your goals to life, often in ways that seem miraculous to outside observers. Developing emotions that are in line with your desires is the secret to utilizing emotion as a catalyst for cognition. Since many of us have been trained to let our emotions to be controlled by outside factors, this requires awareness and work. The 1% don't allow the world tell them how they should feel. They are aware that their experiences are shaped by their emotions, therefore they deliberately pick them. They made this deliberate decision because they don't allow unpleasant feelings to rule their lives. Finding out what you... Have you ever stopped to wonder why, despite all your achievements, it feels like something essential is still missing? My name is Gabriel, and I've helped countless people like you discover the true spiritual power that resides within them. And today, I want to help you. If you feel like life is passing by while something important remains out of place, maybe it's time for an awakening. My audiobook, The Path of the Chosen, was created precisely for those who have reached this point. In this audiobook, I guide you to feel that enthusiasm for living in alignment with what truly matters, knowing that every step has meaning. Together, we'll transform your fears, traumas, and frustrations into powerful strengths that propel you to a new level of growth. Leave behind the feeling of spiritual isolation and find the peace of a true, constant connection with a greater energy that has always been by your side. Instead of fighting against what you feel, you'll learn to find purpose, serenity, and self-discovery to fill your inner world. This could be the beginning of a fuller, more meaningful life. I've seen it happen for so many others, and now it's your turn. Don't let this opportunity slip by. Click on the link pinned in the first comment and begin this journey with The Path of the Chosen. This is your chance to fill what's missing and finally live the life you deserve. I'll be waiting for you there. Want to materialize is the first step in putting this idea into practice. Ask yourself, how would I feel if this were already real? Rather than merely thinking about what you desire, you could feel content, cheerful, confident, or thankful. These are the feelings you must develop. Don't hold off on experiencing these feelings till the desire materializes. Feeling them now, as if what you want is already actual, is the key. Because you are already in alignment with your desires on an energy level, the universe reacts to this frequency. To enter this emotional state, the 1% use simple but effective techniques. One is visualization. They provide a vivid mental picture as well as a powerful emotional experience by making your wishes seem as if they were already actual. They see themselves achieving their goals, and they experience the excitement, pleasure, and thankfulness that come with having already done so. This technique intensifies emotion and strengthens cognition, producing a powerful vibration that the cosmos cannot ignore. Gratitude is another typical habit. They are thankful for both what they now have and what they know is coming. By letting the universe know that you are already vibrating at the frequency of your wishes, this emotion produces a condition of emotional abundance. Gratitude is an active force that strengthens the connection between thinking and emotion. It is not only a passive emotion. I trust that everything is already lining up in my favor, is what you are communicating to the universe when you are feeling thankful, and the universe reciprocates. However, a lot of individuals make the mistake of believing they can trick the cosmos. They ponder about their goals or repeat affirmations, yet they are emotionally stuck in emotions of lack, fear, or uncertainty. The 1% are aware that this is ineffective. The strongest feeling, not what you say or attempt to push, is what the universe reacts to. For this reason, they place a high value on emotional coherence, making sure that their feelings are in line with their goals. This does not imply denying or denying the existence of unpleasant feelings. The 1% are aware that every emotion has a function and may be a helpful predictor. They acknowledge and seize the chance to realign themselves when emotions of fear or uncertainty surface, rather than repressing them. This method enables users to see and correct any misalignments before they become obstacles in their life by asking themselves, what is this emotion showing me about my beliefs or thoughts? Thoughts become reality via the deliberate use of emotion as fuel. You generate an electromagnetic field so powerful that the universe is compelled to react when you thought something and experience the associated emotion profoundly. This is a talent that anybody can acquire and use. It is not only for the exceptional. The distinction is in purpose and conduct. The 1% invest time in developing their feelings because they understand that this is the key to effectively expressing who they are. You discover that conscious creation is not a difficult process when you start to apply this knowledge to your own life. All you need is alignment and presence. Begin modestly. Ask yourself, how would I feel if this were already mine? And then choose anything you desire. Then, enter that emotional state and hold it for as long as you can. Don't stress about how this will occur. Have faith that the divine energy is reacting to your frequency and reshaping reality to fulfill your desires. Every day, the 1% live with this conviction. They are aware that their manifestations are motivated by their emotions. You may also live with this knowledge. You will find that you have always had the ability to bring your dreams to life once you learn to harmonize your thoughts and emotions. It is the nature of the cosmos. It is not magic. You are the creator, ideas are the guides, and emotions are the fuel. Now what do you decide to make? One of the hardest things to grasp when expressing wants is definitely detachment, but it's also the most transforming. Because they have been conditioned to think that the more they concentrate on what they want, or the harder they work, the sooner it will happen. Most individuals find it difficult to let go of control. The 1%, however, are aware that genuine power lies in trust rather than in a frantic connection. They are aware that the urge to regulate every aspect stems from a need frequency, which produces more resistance than it does benefits. You are sending a clear message to the world when you really desire something, but are unable to get rid of the worry about how or when it will happen. I can't believe I already have this. This little but powerful thought serves as a barrier. The cosmos reacts to the energy you release as well as your conscious ideas. You draw experiences that mirror your frequency, if it is one of need or uncertainty, because they know that letting go doesn't imply giving up on their goals, but rather letting go of the obstacles that stand in their way. The 1% steer clear of this loop. To let go is to have faith in the process. It entails realizing that heavenly energy will be on your side as soon as you have a clear objective and your thoughts and feelings are in harmony. This means you stop worrying about the result excessively, but it doesn't imply you stop acting or doing your part. The 1% is aware that the cosmos is immensely clever and that the routes they take to achieve their goals are often much superior than those they might have planned. It is no accident that this faith in the universe's movement occurs. It is developed from experience and practice. The 1% have discovered that their manifestations occur most readily and swiftly when they are most in line with detachment. As long as they remain in alignment, they have an unwavering conviction that what ought to be will happen. Their faith alleviates their tension and enables them to concentrate on living in the now, savoring each moment, and having confidence that everything is going according to plan. But detachment is not the same as inactivity. It's a potent blend of faith and purpose. The 1% have defined objectives and work tirelessly to connect their ideas, feelings, and behaviors with them. They let it go after that, however. They avoid being fixated on the notion that they must be in charge at every turn. Without the resistance that attachment produces, this release produces an energy space that allows the cosmos to flow freely and produce outcomes. Imagine letting go as if you were letting a balloon fly into the air. Holding it tightly prevents it from rising. However, as soon as you release it, it begins to float and go freely in the direction of its target. The 1% recognizes that letting go is an act of faith rather than weakness or inefficiency. When resistance is eliminated, they are aware that the cosmos always works in their favor. Realizing that you have no control over things is the first step in practicing detachment. The process is so mystical because there are forces at play that are inaccessible to humans. You may relax and allow the world to surprise you by accepting that you don't need to know precisely how or when something will happen, but rather that it is already occurring. This is the mindset of the 1%. They stay focused on living and acting in the present, believing that once the seeds of their aspirations are sown, the global soil would take care of their development. Conversely, resistance stems from fear of failing, fear of losing, and worry that it won't work. Attachment is an attempt to exert control over the uncontrollable and to look for assurances when none are available. The 1%, however, are aware that fear is a vibration that obstructs the free flow of creative energy. They discover that the universe reacts to alignment rather than need, and they learn to turn this dread into confidence. What sets them apart from everyone else is this change in viewpoint. Start simple if you want to implement detachment in your life. Do I really believe this is on the way? Is a good question to ask yourself while making an intention. If you have doubts or concern, recognize them, but make the deliberate decision to let them go. Have faith that the universe will handle the specifics. Your only task is to remain in alignment with your desires and resist the urge to let fear or uncertainty control you. This confidence may be strengthened by cultivating thankfulness. Even if you can't see it now, be thankful for what you have now and for what is ahead. In addition to elevating your energy, this thankfulness fortifies your connection with the universe's flow. Being grateful serves as a potent reminder that you are already deserving and that everything you want is occurring at the ideal moment. The 1% is aware that detachment is a continuous process rather than a static position. They too have periods of uncertainty and nervousness, but they deliberately decide to regain their confidence. They understand that letting the cosmos run smoothly is more powerful than attempting to impose outcomes. And you can only achieve this flow when you let go of your demand for control and connect yourself with the knowledge that everything is taking place for your best interests. Detachment is ultimately an act of self-love and faith in God. It is acknowledging that you have already fulfilled your role and that the world, with its boundless knowledge, is fulfilling its ears. In addition to getting rid of resistance, detachment practices also make you more receptive to receiving, and marvels take place in this situation. You may live in the same frequency of trust and surrender as the 1%. The first step is to decide to let go and let the universe do what it does best, which is to bring your goals to life precisely when you want them to.